Ngozi Okonjo-Iweala, Director General of the World Trade Organization, is the latest high-profile figure to be digitally cloned by scammers. A fake AI-generated video circulating online falsely shows her endorsing a suspicious investment scheme, one that promises a staggering 2.66 million naira return in just 7 days from a minimum stake of 380,000. Complete with so-called automatic daily profits and vague claims of government backing. Now, in a post on X, she swiftly disowned the clip, warning Nigerians not to be misled. It's a classic formula. Borrow credibility, manufacture urgency, promise outrageous returns. But in an era of deepfakes and digital deception, the bigger question is, do people still fall for these schemes? Now, joining us on the show to unpack the psychology and risk dynamics behind this is Kikelomo Shodeko, risk consultant. You're welcome to the show, Kikelomo.
Hello, good morning, everybody.
All right, so we're seeing AI becoming a menace again. Now, with AI tools now capable of convincingly cloning voices, faces, and even mannerisms of trusted public figures like we're seeing with Ngozi Okonjo-Iweala. Now, as scams are becoming harder to spot, from your risk perspective, how serious is the threat these deepfake videos pose to investor confidence and more broadly to financial market stability?
Yeah, as AI gets more intelligent, it will get more difficult to detect for the layman's eyes. You know, that's why we have cybersecurity experts, analysts that are in place to make sure that they're able to detect deepfakes. But I can tell you for free that it will get more and more difficult for even the analysts if they are not consistently and continually trained to detect this little errors here and there when it comes to these fake videos, especially for investment or any fraudulent act, as the case may be. So it will get more difficult. I can even tell you for free that we still have, you know, those when they send you those emails and they tell you, oh, don't click it, and you know, if you click it, it takes you elsewhere, just to test our training on the ability to recognize scam emails. I still get people clicking on that. Now you can now imagine a video coming from someone of high caliber telling them to do something. Of course, it will get more and more difficult as we go down the line. So it's expected that that will happen. So it's a huge threat now, and it's going to be a huge threat down the line. Yeah, thank you.
All right, so as you rightly pointed out, they're now using public figures, especially the ones that are in such respected positions, to draw people in. So when a known figure like the director of the WTO is falsely linked to investment schemes, the damage can go far beyond just individual victims. Now, what kinds of financial and reputational risks do these scams create for public figures, for banks, as well as legitimate investment platforms caught in the crossfire?
Yeah, I understand that. It's a huge, huge risk because it goes as far as breaking those usual comfort that people would have in their banking system. So say, for example, in the case of wonderful NOI, she was used, and you know, people believe so much in her capabilities and in her abilities. And one thing that she has done that has really, really helped is that she came out and denounced it immediately. That's what each like a personality that has been caught in that kind of situation has to do, to denounce it immediately before it goes far. But it's a reputational damage for people like her, especially if people take it face value. You know, it can be propagated and say, oh, she has scammed us before, and this and this and this is the video, this is the evidence of the scam. And that will be a huge reputational damage for her and for banks as well. That's why it's always important that they, each of these entities, banks, personalities, have to have intel analysts, have to have strategic analysts to make sure that whatever is being put out on the internet is monitored by them. Banks have to monitor, our telecoms company have to monitor. They have to continually monitor what kind of imagery is put out there because their reputation is at stake. And to a larger extent, it also has to deal with the humans behind that use these products, for example. So if a bank comes out and we are seeing a message from the bank and it's not authentic by the bank, that would ruin the bank eventually. That could even get the bank in trouble with the policymakers and with the lawmakers and even with the government in general. So those are the things that could happen. Reputational damage to wanting to deal with them for their position. They could get dismissed from their high position. Banks could lose customers and so on and so forth. So it's a huge reputational risk for anyone or any personality that has this kind of videos out there. So it's critical that they have intel analysts, strategic analysts monitoring all their spaces, all their social media. So it's not just about social media managers for fancy and putting out freebies. It's also important that you have intel and strategic analysts combing through the internet for this kind of video so that it can be denounced as quickly as possible. Thank you.
All right. So, of course, we have the Nigerian government trying to play its part in protecting its people in these type of situations. Now, we have laws covering fraud as well as cybercrime, but AI-generated deception is a relatively new issue that we're facing. Now, are existing regulations robust enough to deal with AI-driven financial scams? Or is there a new clear case for laws that specifically address these type of situations, like deepfakes?
So we don't have anything concretely particular for AI. But we have laws already trying to catch up. So we have the Protection Act. We have the SEC even putting in place laws that say AI scams will be dealt with. You have the Evidence Act, for example, talking about the Evidence Act 2011, talking about AI fraud. So in itself, in totality, we don't have something specific, but there are already regulations, some laws in place that are trying to catch up with this and practically punish anyone that is found using AI in that way. We even have the Cybersecurity Act as well. And if we remember, our focus for Cybersecurity Act then was that, they were trying to muscle people not to speak up. But in that act can be found anything that has to do with AI. So it's not concrete in the way we would like it to be addressed directly. But yes, there are already laws in place trying to make sure that they catch up with whatever it is, the kind of legislation that is needed to at least be like a buffer, if as the case may be like a buffer to this kind of situation we are finding ourselves today. And it's going to get worse. The pros and cons, the pros, people will say can outweigh the cons, but I tell you, as we go further down, the cons might become really bad because, bad news spread faster than good news. So the bad news must have gone forward before the laws or regulation is able to deal with it adequately. That's how it is most times. So that's how it is. But yeah, we do have those regulations. Protection Act, the SEC regulations. We have the Evidence Act also helping when it comes to evidence presentation in court. We have the Cybersecurity Act as well, trying to just, catch up and trying to put in place some sort of regulation on anything that has to do with AI fraud. Thank you.
All right. So speaking of regulatory bodies, we have agencies like the SEC, we have CBN, and we also have EFCC. And these are organizations that are sitting at the intersection of regulations and enforcement, as well as public trust. Now, in practical terms, what role should these bodies be playing towards detecting, preventing, and ultimately penalizing AI-enabled investment scams?
So when it comes to the SEC, I think I have to give them a round of applause in some situations because the SEC is trying as much as possible to catch up to any fraudulent activity that could happen in the financial sector as quickly as possible, right? And so what the SEC has done is put in place some sort of regulation for anything, like make sure that no bank or financial institution is found going about doing scams using AI. So there is a regulation that covers that, right? Now, for the CBN is basically our central bank. So the insistent on it will deal directly with the banks, will deal directly with our financial institution. while the EFCC is basically there to make sure that they prosecute anyone found wanting. So AI fraud can be, we mix it up with cyber fraud, cyber criminal fraud, but it's not. AI in itself, using AI it's separate from any kind of financial fraud we have. Before, you just have people sending scam emails pretending to be someone they're not. But now AI is giving imagery to that kind of fraud. So it's not just using an anonymous going behind and talking like that person, but now AI can present a whole human using that particular person. And so that's another ballgame entirely. And so it means that the EFCC has to catch up with where the SEC is on regulations, to catch up with where the Cybersecurity Act is currently, and to catch up with what the Evidence Act is, to show that these types of fraud is not accepted in our domain, in the financial sector in Nigeria. So the SEC is trying to catch up, because currently they are. Anything that has to do with AI fraud, they're making sure that there is a regulation on that for every financial institution. Anyone caught will be dealt with, while the EFCC is there to penalize, prosecute, to make sure that that does not expand further than it is.
All right, that was Kike Lomo-Sodeko taking a look at cyber fraud at this point. She is a risk consultant. Thank you so much for joining us.